Welcome to Ubercube. This is your host, Anthony Adams, a.k.a. Butterbear. And today we are doing our Halloween special, and I can't do anything scary with my voice except for talk. Hi, Stu. How are you?
I can just speak with my usual goofy English accent, and that's probably good enough.
I wanted to be so scary. I really did. Could you do Sloppity Ballpiper real quick? That's pretty scary.
No. That was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and for anyone who missed my Sloppity Ballpiper, it was an episode that we recorded many moons ago with good friend Vince, a.k.a. Pleasant Kenobi, and yes, I managed to do my version of Sloppity Ballpiper's voice. Not quite sure where it came from, but I feel it was very creative, and but it was, like I said, that was a once only.
And then we have a special guest.
Who do we have with us today?
You have Angelo.
Hi, Angelo. What are you famous for? I mean, like, when we talk about famous, we there's some famous people here. We've got some top of the Cube Cobra type page stuff here. Or at least you're on the very topish of the pages, but you've got a cube that I've always looked up to, and we kind of talked about this. You are the Halloween October go-to person that we always want to talk to here at Ubercube around this season. What's your cube? Tell us a little bit about it. What you got?
So I still don't know how that has happened and how my cube has gotten the following that it has, but I am eternally grateful for that. But I am the designer of the Cube of Cthulhu. If everybody listened to last October's episode, we talked about that a bit more in depth. But high level, it's a cosmic horror-themed cube. I pull pretty heavily from Innistrad, but now also Duskmourn, as well as other sets like Lorwyn, Ravnica, Eldraine. Yeah, my rule is just kind of flavor first. So everything in the cube is there because it is spooky and kind of pushes a more kind of horror aesthetic themed gameplay.
It is an absolutely gorgeous cube. Before we go any further, though, we're going to do the thing that we do every Halloween special, and we're going to have our cups of blood, right? Is that what you're having? What are you having over there?
I am. I'm drinking a cup of blood.
A cup of blood.
It's like a cup of blood.
It's like a cup of noodles, but
it
a cup
is.
of... Yeah, so I am having, thank you, Stu, for giving me a Raleigh Brewing Company. It is the Roasted Porter. That was not something you stuck on there.
I was going to say, did something happen there that I didn't know about? I'm looking at Anthony's
He's looking at my drink, and he went to go reach it, and that's why you're going to hear the long pause here.
Oh.
So I'm going to go ahead and what do you have? What are you having, Cavs?
I am having a nice hot mug of mulled cider.
Actually sounds pretty good.
Unfortunately, the listeners will not be able to see the Resident Evil themed mug.
I love that.
I had to break out a spooky mug for the occasion.
You got the Raccoon Police Department right there. Yeah.
Yep.
Team Umbrella. It feels like we're in the Umbrella kind of era of our world right now a little bit, right?
Yeah, just a little bit.
That really does. Yeah.
It's a little frightening.
Yeah. You know, it's weird when, like, I find myself retreating to, like, horror movies and, like, novels and games and find that to be, like, a nice respite from what's going on everywhere else.
I've been going around picking green herbs and red herbs just in case things get weird. You know what I mean? Right?
Too bloody true.
Stockpile it while you can.
Well, if we're obviously, again, Halloween episode, let's start out with something what I think is quite a frightening statement that Angelo made before we started recording today. And it is something that I've thought about in the past, and actually I've had offline discussions with this, or about this, I should say, with other people that are in our group and that we play with. And that was, Angelo, if you will, explain yourself that cube curators should play more EDH/Commander.
And this was his quote, not mine. Don't email me. Email Stu and Cavs. There we go. Yeah, let's go.
I fully stand by this. My big aha moment was when I realized that EDH was the perfect place for me to kill all of my cube darlings and pull everything that was in my cube but not working out of my cube, throw it into an EDH deck, where I was then able to play with those cards while also making my cube environment a bit better. I think playing more EDH with more new players can help you find things that new players dislike, can help you kind of build a cube that is a bit more welcoming and inviting to a new player, because I have found it's very hard to get new players into Magic, starting primarily with Cube.
Yes.
So I am pitching this as a debate for the future because I think there is merit.
I would agree.
I'm wondering if there's a little bit of subterfuge here. If you're kind of like a secret rogue agent in there going, let's play Commander, guys. This is really fun. This game's great. You know what's better? Cube.
Yeah, we're not going to be Uber Commander anytime soon. Let's just put that out there. But I will say I do agree with it because I feel like there's a fair amount of adjacency, right? Obviously, there's the singleton aspect, which is not a hard and fast rule of Cube. Nothing is. But there is that singleton element and the fact that you do get that exposure to not just the deck that you're playing, but the decks that other people are playing, you know, different mechanics. So like, oh, cool. I've never seen that card before. I'm not familiar with it. So I think it can get the creative juices flowing.
Yeah, I've got pros and cons on this. I think when you get them in there, they won't let their little grubby paws off those commander decks either, though. They're like, you know, you're pulling them away as they're screaming, papa, papa, right? Like, literally, you can't get them to stop wanting to refine and play that and come play Cube one night.
That feel like is inevitable. We talked about this before, and Angelo, you told me, because you've said yourself that this is a difficulty, is even getting people to play Magic, let alone especially getting new players to play Cube, right? Yes. But you're sort of setting yourself up for failure in a way because you are saying, hey, you guys would really, really enjoy this game called Magic. Oh, and by the way, here's this commander format where you get to play in a casual way, where you can express yourself through your deck building. So you encourage the players to find some kind of emotional attachment to the deck that they're playing or the decks that they build. And then you say, well, that's great. Now you enjoy the game. Now I want to pull you away from all of that emotional attachment that you have to your deck or your decks. And now I want you to come and play something that is only really going to have the emotional attachment to the person that created it, in this case, the Cube, right? So I feel like that can be a little tough.
I feel like he killed their puppy in that story. I'm not going to lie.
I think that's just the challenge of if you are an enfranchised player and if you are either trying to evangelize Cube at an LGS, we've experienced the same thing when we've gone to large events. Like, hey, do you guys want to play Cube? No, we're playing Commander. Hey, you guys want to play Cube? No, we're here for the modern event. There's essentially that emotional attachment that players get to anything that they're playing. It doesn't have to be Commander, but I feel like Commander has enough of an overlap and enough of a way to sort of draw people into the game in general that maybe a competitive 60-card environment doesn't have, that while might be the best way to get people into playing Magic and ultimately into playing Cube, does also have its drawbacks.
Yeah, and it absolutely does have its drawbacks. Like, I will not argue against that.
Thank you.
This is the horror episode.
Yes, it is. We're scaring the crap out of everybody now. They're like, hang on a minute. You're supposed to be promoting this.
You clickbaited me.
All right, let's talk about the Cube.
It's the best way to play Magic, because it's not. But, I think Cube can be intimidating and maybe spooky in a way that other formats of Magic can't.
Now, that's funny. I'm going to cite a person, because I don't disagree with you. I'm not going to say the people's names. I was in a certain Discord just today, and one person was talking about how they want to grow their group. I will say that they're presenting, according to them, a desert cube, and can't seem to get players.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, so I heard,
that is brave.
Well, so in hearing that, I hear a lot of things. So I hear desert cubes are technical. They can be challenging if you're not familiar with the ideas of Magic, kind of fortifying your stance on what you said, Angelo. And then in addition to case of my desert cube, the Monopoly, or in the case of, say, Dragons of Winter's Night or Amicar, designed by Bones or whatever, while they can be modified, they are designed typically for 8 players. So You're kind of setting yourself up in that scenario for a lot of hoops to jump through if this is your first welcoming cube, in so many words.
I would never purposely, unless the person is a very heavily enfranchised player, even semi-franchised, ask someone to play a desert cube as their introduction into Cube.
Back to what Cavs is saying, if he wanted to meet new players and build a group, you could theoretically use Commander as a platform. I don't disagree with that statement, at least if you wanted to meet them and create a social vibe, right, Cavs? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, and I think this is potentially kind of a difference in where people are with their play groups, too. This year was the year where all of my friends have had children. So trying to get 8 people together to play Cube, really hard. The way I've been finding myself playing Magic more is randomly with people at my LGS or friends who have played, decades in the past that are getting back into the game. So, a lapsed player that's coming back in. So I'm finding myself playing more with new players. And I'm finding kind of by playing with them more and seeing things that they either resonate with or things that they bounce off against, I'm finding some things in my cube that I can tweak and kind of make that new player experience a bit better.
Are you using the decks that they present in Commander as a kind of a catalyst or a jumping point for what you think you should have in your cube in order to attract them towards your cube? Like the proverbial bug to the bright light, the zapper? Is that what I'm hearing, or am I incorrect in that statement? Are we making them into bugs, and are we zapping them with cube?
It's more identifying what the bug zapper light is and pulling it out of the cube, if that makes sense. Okay. So finding things that gameplay-wise that they might not enjoy. So an example I'll give, this is not in my cube, but I'm thinking about like more traditional kind of power cubed environments, things like stacks.
Right.
Like if you have a new player spend 30 minutes drafting a deck, and then they never get to cast a card because they've been stuck under like a winter orb or something, they're going to have a terrible time, and they're probably never going to play cube again.
I had a great time. I really did. This was the best day of my life. I'm not going to lie. It was so much fun. I can see that point.
No, like, there's sickos out there. Like, don't get me wrong. But no, I am seeing it now as I am trying to kind of rebuild a new play group, and I'm finding it easier to kind of connect with people as like a player first through EDH, kind of like build that friendship and that rapport, and then you present the cube.
So for the listeners, I had some movies that I put up here. I had some pictures of some horrors.
We still got movies.
No, we're going to get to it. We're going to dig into it. But this is more interesting. Actually, I'm enjoying this a little bit more. We'll come to that. We'll kind of tie off with that. We will entwine some cool horror movies. This is a Halloween special. But yeah, I kind of like what you did there. What I see in a commander group versus a cube group is the biggest defining factor that I see is in commander players, because I am one at times, they prefer not to be interacted with, and or they play behind the methodology of, I do not interact unless you interact with me first. As in, my counterspell is reserved to protect my plays so that I can goldfish, and I'm using that word even to myself because I have a deck that does that, so I can play my way, complete my line of strategy, finish the game, win, get rewarded for my excellence of deck designing and all that. And this sounds a little negative, but this is kind of my personal experience, whereas if you counterspell them, they get really mad, like, oh man, I really needed my commander to stick so I could do the big thing that I wanted to demonstrate before you. Lay out my cards.
Hang on. I think if you want to stick with the horror theme right now, then we could just talk for the rest of the episode about what it's like to be the only blue player at a table of EDH gameplay. Because that is a horror show by itself where everybody's trying to land these absolute game-ending bombs, and you're like, well, that's about to go absolutely ham sandwiches in this game, and it's terrible for me, so I have to counter it. So you spend like the first 3 or 4 turns countering stuff, then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I've got 1 card left, and everyone else has got a full grip. I've got no more counter spells left.
They 3 for 1, Jude.
That's it. Well, you 3 for 1, you just 1v3 yourself, right? It's like, I didn't sign up to just 1v3 with counter magic, but yes, that's
Cavs, I did listen to this other interesting YouTube channel podcast, and I don't have it right in front of me, but I'll have to share it in the show notes. Actually loved it. And they were talking about Commander from the sense of it's literally better if you do nothing and only interact when they interact with you. Now imagine in a multiplayer format where everyone took that stance, that all 4 of us are only going to interact when you interact with me. Now, what's the definition of interaction, right? Like, we got 40 points of life, so you attacked me with your 3/3 and your 5/5. Do you qualify that as interaction?
Yes.
How much of that are you going to take? You got a blackjack at 21, that's when you die.
I'm going after that. But you attacked me for 8 whole, that's 20% of my life. You are my mortal enemy for the rest of my life, and I will do everything in my power to counter all of your spells, remove all your creatures, and make your life miserable.
What do you think, Cavs?
So I think this is where I need to make an important distinction. So to step up a bit, I do not want to play Cube with everybody that I have played EDH with. So
Bravo.
This is important. So I have been that person in the cube. I'm sorry, in the EDH pod with the Grixis control deck, who suddenly has someone like salting out and wanting to like flip the table because I cast a wash away on their commander. I'm not gonna invite that dude into the cube pod. You know?
So
reasonable.
You bring a good point. That is it a good way to socially vet? Like, I mean, okay, are you setting them up for failure? What I mean is you're putting someone in an environment that is kind of free for all. You might get certain personality aspects. Then you move over to Cube and all of their 1v1, I attack you is perfectly acceptable, but you can really shine through a little bit more in Commander to see if maybe they're an aggressive personality, or maybe they don't understand threat assessment, or maybe they're not good sportsmanship, where maybe that might be mildly hidden in 1v1 Cube. Am I wrong on that statement? It could be masked.
Yeah, of course it can, because you've only got one other player, right? So it doesn't really matter what you've got in your grip or what's on the battlefield. You're still only going to have one player's stuff to interact with.
So what do you think, Cavs / Angelo?
So, you know, we'll go back and forth. Like, I'm so used to being called either at this point in time. So I think EDH, its greatest strength is that it is a format that is largely about player expression. I have brought a deck, I've picked a commander, I've picked a theme, I've picked the arts, I've picked whatever card frames or treatments that I've liked. I think you can get a decent sense of who somebody is as a Magic player by seeing what deck they show up to and then how they play that game. So if you're playing against the person who's freaking out every time someone plays a counterspell, or getting mad that they lose 75% of the time, which is what you should expect to in an EDH game, I kind of have a general sense that that's probably not someone that I'm going to want to like show them my cube baby. You know, like, here's a thing that I've been working on for years that I've gone on multiple podcasts to talk about, that I have spent numerous hours slaving over spreadsheets or Cube Tutor or Cube Cobra trying to tweak. That's not that person that I want to invite into that group.
But my argument is, what if their temperament shifts when they go 1v1? Like, you wouldn't know that quiet little, during the draft, their quiet thoughts, right? Their deck building. And then they play you and say they were overly assertive, aggressive in the format of multiplayer to the point where it didn't make any sense. Say they're relentlessly attacking you, just trying to drive you out of the game. Whereas in the 1v1, we're not that we play that way in Cube, but I'm still going at Stu as a singular opponent. I'm putting all my resources towards removing him from the game. It would be more acceptable there than, say, that weird dichotomy you have in Commander where Stu, Angelo, May, and myself, and then I just decide for no reason whatsoever in the social aspect of the game, I'm just going to pile drive you, Angelo, out of the game. Makes no sense. Just don't want you to be sitting at this table. Going to bore you out. All my resources go towards you, hoping the other three don't notice me for whatever God knows reason. And that's aggressive behavior. Whereas in Cube, 1v1 versus, Cavs versus Anthony, Angelo, I keep swapping names here, perfectly acceptable.
So at their heart, they're both casual formats. So I think what you're getting at maybe hints at differences between what people want from their casual game of Magic.
That's
for
what
me,
it comes down to. Agreed.
Yeah, so like for me, like I said, it's very difficult for me to get a cube night together anymore because it's hard to kind of scrape 8 people together.
Well, I got a solution, man. Just move to Raleigh, North Carolina. We got you covered. We can get you 15, 16 on demand. I see the problem.
But do you have the beautiful Cleveland, Ohio weather?
We have a little less smog. Just a little bit.
One less Rock and Roll Hall of Fame here in
our outdoor
North
air quality
Carolina.
Might be one notch below yours, but otherwise we got a medium-ish. We're starting to kind of build up. Podcasts is probably helping with that. We're finding people. I'm hoping, actually, let's just do this right now. Don't give away your address. Don't dox yourself. Just mention your cube. Give a region. Come through the UberCube podcast Discord if you're interested in cubing with you. How would they do that?
Northeast Ohio.
That's good enough. I like that region. If you are a listener in Northeast Ohio, Ubercube Discord. It'll be in the link. We can figure out what that looks like as far as, interchange and conversation with Angelo here. But I build a cube group wouldn't be a bad thing, just to have a rotation. Find out if there's anybody in your area, because we actually have found out through the show, and we are blessed to have the show. Our good friend David just did this AMA interview with me that just got posted, where they went through and asked me. I didn't even know. I was like answering questions, drinking a glass of wine. Probably started answering a little bit too personal. I'm like, here, I love to paint. I love it. But I am blessed to know that David lives approximately an hour and a half-ish from us. And he's a good friend of ours that we met through the podcast. And he kind of said in the AMA, hey, I listen to these guys, kind of want to play them. They seem cool, because we are cool. And then we started building a group like that. So I'm actually trying to offer that to you a little bit right now. So if you're getting a shout out somewhere in the state of Ohio,
I appreciate this.
And you're looking for some cube, and you want to play a sick cube, Angelo's cube is amazing.
Well, let's talk about the cube. Let's get on to the subject matter of the episode, right? But first,
yes.
Anthony would like to reference a little bit of art here.
Yeah, so this is a horror episode. Besides the fact that we're talking about Commander, I was a little shocked and
Commander can be spooky.
So as we kind of joked, Angelo has been my personal go-to for I want to talk about horror. I want to bring Angelo on. Then I'm like really disappointed that Stu and Angelo haven't seen like one of the greatest horror movies of all time. At least they got to fix this. In the Mouth of Madness with Sam Neill. Have you both not seen this film?
No, and I'll start this off by saying one of the greatest horror movies of all time.
Besides Alien, we know.
I mean, it's got 60% on Rotten Tomatoes. 7.1.
It's the premise. So, if I can recommend, the reason why I put these films were very specific. They're in alignment with your cube, the Cube of Cthulhu.
I love In the Mouth of Madness. Let me be clear. I've seen that many times.
Oh, you have seen this? Okay.
Yes. The second one.
Redemption. We got you then. There is no second. There is no second one really, but this book, it's based on a book written by a novel that kind of drives people crazy. Not going to spoil anything. If you haven't seen the movie In the Mouth of Madness, came out in 1994. It is Lovecraftian in a sense. But, and I know we've talked before, H.P. Lovecraft, not a cool person, but the works that they did were pretty sick and really revolutionary for the time. And, well, again, not all of them were. We know this. Some of them are really awful. We've talked about
very influential.
Influential from not the negative sense. We know this. But as far as when you look at something like an Emrakul, and these ideas, they came from this idea. If we're looking from a merge from magic, it'd be hard-pressed not to say that H.P. Lovecraftian type lore didn't help that mechanic come to life. The mutations you see on Innistrad when, mommy comes into town and has to be locked in the moon, all that is literally coming from this idea. Now, I'm sure someone out there is, actually right now going to do this to me. And that's fine. Come at me, Internet. But this is what I believe to be true at this moment. That's where the influence of. So In the Mouth of Madness, a fantastic film. It's not so much that it's amazing. It's just that it's body horror. It's not gross. It's a mind melt, right? Would you agree with that, Angelo?
Yeah, it walks that line between being weird and unsettling while also being like over the top and fun. So, to me, it is like, it's directed by John Carpenter. I think it's like the last classic John Carpenter movie that he made before he went on to kind of go into his later career downswing. Soundtrack is incredible. Oh yeah, Sam Neill is great.
Sam Neill's kind of I like his acting. I thought about this when I said he was a great actor. I actually messed that too earlier. I don't know if I know he's a great actor. It's not to insult the thespian in there. It's just Sam Neill's the same Sam Neill in Jurassic Park as we're going to talk about Event Horizon as almost the same Neill that's in Sam Neill that's in The Mouth of Madness. He changes himself a little bit. That's okay. But he fits so well in each one of those roles that kind of what's the word I'm looking for? It's not generic. His acting ability to meld into the film kind of homogenizes with the film, and it just kind of becomes organic.
Okay.
He plays that character without trying to be something else besides himself.
Okay.
Kind of like a Liam Neeson type thing. He's always, I got special skills. But
I will find you.
I will find you. Give me approximately 2 weeks. Just, I'll get there. Facebook, Twitter. But The next film that I want to talk about, and this is one you two haven't seen. Again, I feel like I can't spoil these. They're not old enough. This came out in 2022. This is the film Glorious. If there is a movie that aligns with the Cube of Cthulhu, this is another Lovecraftian type dark, cosmic horror type film. But this is a comedy with J.K. Simmons and Ryan Quatten. You need to see this film. I'm recommending this here. I have watched this over and over again. We have like this, unbeknownst, I haven't told Stu, I'm actually in this horror movie Discord. A good friend of mine started it. He's even trying to get me to do like apps. So when I go see the movie, I'm like, yeah, give us a rating, Anthony. I'm like, I'm not going to do all that, man. I'm just going to enjoy the movie. But this movie is one that there's a few movies that I'm kind of like proud to tell the people they should watch. De Pacto Wolves was one of them that we talked about before. Obviously, Aliens is just a go-to. Glorious is a movie that I have no fear with. If someone's into kind of cosmic horror and they're into that and they want to. The reason why we're talking about this, I want to take a step back. These type movies can inspire the thematic aspects of Cube. If you're wondering if we're going into a movie bit here, we're not Siskel and Ebert here doing this. We're finding a way.
Very relevant and timely reference for today's youth.
Yeah, they're like, who the hell's that? But it does roll up into the idea I want to build a cube, because I don't know about you, Cavs, but sometimes when I'm sitting around messing with the cube, I put on like Metallica if I want to build the Munson cube. Maybe I put on Event Horizon, which we're going to talk about in a second here, when I'm building a new space genre cube. It can set a tone, right? Like, not that you're paying attention to it, but the film kind of gives you a vibe while your creative juices can get flowing as not only a deck builder, but a cube curator, designer.
I think any piece of
I definitely think last time I updated my cube, I did so with Nightmare on Elm Street 3 playing in the background.
That's what I mean, right? That may sound strange, but sometimes when you're getting there and you're like, I don't know what kind of cube I should build. Analysis through paralysis, I'm stuck. Playing certain types of music, putting on a certain type of movie might inspire you to break loose and go, oh, well, shoot, I'm sitting here watching How to Train a Dragon. Spoiler alert, I'm going to build a Dragon's Cube. I mean, it's not that hard.
The Silent Hill soundtracks are great if you're making updates to the horror cube. I'll throw that one out.
Oh my God, yes. Love them.
Yeah.
So, Glorious, to kind of tie that one off, highly recommend. A person goes into a rest stop and is encountered by J.K. Simmons. That's all I'm going to give you.
I have heard of this movie.
Film is ridiculous.
I know what this movie is about. Yes. Okay. I know what you're talking about. I've never seen this. Thank you for reminding me that this existed. I remember hearing about this and thinking that the premise was great. So I will check this out.
Absolutely fantastic. Stu, you must watch this. You will love this film.
I'll watch it.
Anything with J.K. Simmons.
I'll watch it.
So good. The next one...
I am remembering why it is called Glorious from the description.
Now it makes sense. So now the...
Yep.
Spoilers.
A little bit.
If it's the one I'm thinking, maybe glory and then another word was kind of a little bit more appropriate.
Yes, ambiguous spoilers.
Yes. Okay. I'm going to leave it at that, because now all of a sudden all the memories are coming back, and now I'm like, did I watch this and just purposely block it from my memories? And that may be the
Why
case.
do I mention this film is because I have, in fact, sat down before CubeCon tinkering on Uberbear's horror cube that was featured while I'm looking for art that's body horror art, etc. That has nothing to do with the hole they're all laughing about. And then use that movie kind of the background and just sat there, and it set a mood for me. It set a tone. That's what I'm offering to the listeners. The next film, and it'll be our last film, I promise. Again, we're not Siskel and Ebert for all the people that don't know this boomer stuff we're talking about, is Event Horizon. I saw this, I want to say I saw this in about 1997 when it came out. Actually, I know I did. Like opening week. And it's only because we were at the mall and we had nothing else better to do. I literally thought this was just a sci-fi film. I bought popcorn and then I almost hurled my popcorn because we weren't prepared for this. We didn't know what this was, right? This movie was revolutionary. It actually tanked. It's got 36 on Rotten Tomatoes. It is kind of like Office Space. It's one of those films that just kind of moved through the movie theaters. Critics just dunked on it. Now it's just on repeat for everybody that wants to learn something about cosmic horror, such as in the Cube of Cthulhu. Have you seen this film? Please tell me you've seen this film, Cavs.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's one of my favorites. I think I first saw it probably also in 1997. I saw it because my parents had an illegal cable box.
Well, I was about to say, I was going to assume you were old enough to use your fake ID to get into the movie theater because it was 17 and older at the time.
I don't think I would have passed as an 18-year-old in 1997, unfortunately.
I was in the Air Force. I was bored.
Yeah, I remember, I think the statute of limitations is passed where I can say publicly that my parents had one of those old illegal cable boxes, if you remember those back in the day, like
for sure.
Box. Yeah, and I remember it was like on one of the pay-per-view channels for like an entire summer. And I remember I was way too young when I first saw that. Like, some of the scenes towards the end of the movie that are involved with spoiler stuff that I'm not going to mention, I think one of my favorite on-screen depictions of that kind of place. I'm just not going to say it.
Yeah. They actually have scenes that they have removed and were damaged that were so brutal when this film first came out in the uncut version before they released it to the general public that people got sick and left. It was when they first came on board the spaceship. It had scenes that were too much. They're working on a prequel.
I totally believe that.
Oh, yeah. They're working on a prequel now that they may try to reenact these because it seems like we're so desensitized. Stu and I just did this episode, which if you've listened and you're a listener, and I'm going to agree that Angelo's a listener because you love our podcast, right, Angelo? But
oh, absolutely.
We just did one on a possessed goat, and we talked about this. So we talked about what do you do with a possessed goat? This was the whole thing. You know how to shoot a zombie in the head. You know kind of what to do with a vampire. You stake it in the heart. What do you do with a possessed goat? I'm going to ask that question to direct that towards Angelo. What do you do?
Ooh, I can think of two movies that I've seen that have involved possessed goats. One is a spoiler, so I'll not mention it. But if I remember Drag Me to Hell correctly, I would say a seance to try to unpossess the goat.
Correct. So
yes,
I actually did a little bit of research. This is another side topic before we go into what we're actually going to talk about. I wanted to understand where that dichotomy came from, and I found myself in a conversation in an environment that I shouldn't have been having this with a person I should not be having this conversation with, but it's basically kind of from the book of Leviticus, and people feel free to check me. It's a biblical story where a goat that kind of absorbs the idea of sins and sent out to the waste, where that's kind of the idea of the good releasing the bad in a parable type idea. But then you got the other tilt where the bad in this aspect, the dichotomy, has adopted the goat as its symbol. Do you see where I'm going with this? Like, we're sending the evil out. No, we need the evil. The evil's great. That's kind of the dichotomy of this idea. You go into this weird religious conversation about the poor little possessed goat, but I had to read a little bit more about it.
My question is, you were talking about Event Horizon, right? 97, so I would have been 18 at the time when that was released. Anthony, you were probably 19, 20, something like that. So... Yep.
11.
Oh, you were 11. Okay, good for you. Congratulations. At what point does...
Thank you for your service, Angelo.
Yeah. At what point does the clock kind of reset on the spoilers, right? Because if a movie's like only a few weeks or a few months old, you're like, okay, I don't want to spoil a new movie. But is that movie, at what point are you like, man, that's an old enough movie that I don't want to spoil it because it's old enough that they might not have seen it?
Well, because these weren't highly rated at the time. Some of these films we're talking about weren't.
We're talking about a movie that's nearly 30 years
Yeah,
old.
but they're not mainstream in some cases. Although
I think Event Horizon is pretty dang mainstream.
Well, it wasn't initially. It became cult after.
But that's what I'm talking about. Now we're in 2025, right? Is Event Horizon old enough or too old to spoil?
We're going to give them 2 weeks. 2 weeks, we're going to spoil these films.
All right.
We'll come back and do the full discussion.
Then we'll know if you listen or if you cancel us. We'll be like, well, this is how Event Horizon ended. But now let's kind of move over back to your cube. We've set the longest tone ever. We've talked about Commander and how you can kind of fold people in. I don't know how that happened. And then we went into horror movies. Now you can use that to set a tone. This is where we're at. This is why I write scripts, people, so that we can not do this at all. But I wanted to kind of look at your cube from something that was brought to my attention. We're gonna less reference Uber Bear's horror cube. We're gonna more talk about what I adore about your cube is that you have horrors, physical, the card type horror. And I've posed some questions, and I want to talk about a few cards in particular, and I'm going to have them all in the show notes. Anybody wants to look at them? There's a lot of them. I didn't know where to begin. We had our champion from the first Uber Cube that came onto the show, and when they looked at my horror cube, they called me out and go, "This is a horror cube. Where are your horrors at, Anthony?" I was like, I don't know, actually. And then they started making suggestions. And then I got to thinking, like, yeah, they're kind of right. Like, I'm kind of running, the run-of-the-mill Abbott and Costello kind of, the propped-up league of all the zombies and werewolves and humans and all these things. We kind of talked about it. And this was kind of a game changer for me. And I had been looking at your cube, and I remember I kept challenging myself, like, no, I want to be different than Angelo. I don't want to be Angelo. I want Angelo to have an identity. I want to have an identity. We may have talked about that in the first one. I wanted us to be different. And then Duskmorn came into play. And it, besides the Scooby-Doo stuff that happened, and we know Scooby-Doo was in there a little bit more than it should have, the meme part of it, these cards kind of, I guess, created a level up for my cube as far as unlocking me a little bit more and probably really bolstered you more because you'd already accepted these things. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and what's interesting to me is when you sent me the outline,
which we
saying that you wanted to talk about this.
Yeah,
I'm kind of going behind, pulling the curtain back a little bit. When I first saw this, I'm like, oh, interesting, horrors. Like I remember thinking to myself, like, we have like a handful. And then when I saw the list, I'm like, oh, I run way more than I thought.
Like a lot more than me. I almost triple. And I guess what I'm going to ask you is, you bring up the point of you didn't even notice them. Like, there's almost like subtext. Like, we get a werewolf horror, and it's a werewolf. We get a vampire horror, and it's a vampire.
Well, because it's a lot easier to kind of identify. There's a lot of separation between what a werewolf is and what a vampire is, right? You can picture it in your head if someone says vampire or werewolf, even within the context of magic. But horror is a little more, I don't want to say generic, but a little bit more abstract.
I think it's more abstract. And I want to talk about what that means. I already have my definition. I'm not going to share it. When I take vampire horror, I'm saying that word horror, because my southern draw here is causing me a problem. I'm not going to lie.
Look, I've struggled with this myself, too.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I'm not going to lie. Okay, I want to be really clear.
Yeah.
But
learn to use an English accent, okay? It'll make the pronunciation of cards.
I'm having a hard time with this word.
People will understand.
But Angelo, when I say that to you and I pin that little moniker at the end, that little subtext, that little thing, what does it change about this card? Any card, generically speaking, what do you envision?
The first word that comes to me is weird. And like I'm thinking about that more in kind of like the classical, like, weird fiction kind of definition of the word weird. Where when I look at like the vampire horrors or the zombie horrors, you can tell that they started off as like someone drew a zombie, someone drew a wolf, someone drew a bat. But then they kept going, and it's kind of like morphed into this thing that is not fully like an abstraction of a zombie or a bat or a wolf, but it has this additional sort of abstract weirdness to it that if you look at it, it just kind of feels off. You identify it as a thing, but it's almost like an uncanny valley thing. Like, you identify it as the wolf or the bat or the zombie, but there's something else about it that makes it not quite that, and it makes you feel a little uncomfortable.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It's more of, it's not just the mutation of the card. Oftentimes, it's like the art is more elongated or more melted or more deformed. It's twisted. It's mangled. So you can take a wolf and call it a werewolf. And if you picture a werewolf in your minds right now, we know that goes to like a metamorphosis. And everybody's seen the American Werewolf in London, for those ones that are as old as me.
I was thinking Teen Wolf.
Teen Wolf was terrible, but the change.
You go wash your mouth out right now.
It's a great film.
Thank you.
But the change, well, it's gruesome. I think American Werewolf in London did a great job of that. But when you look at something kind of let's just cut to it, like the card Woe Strider. Let's just go into what we're talking about here. This will be in the show notes. This is a fantastic cube card. This is why I wanted to point this out. I don't believe this is in your cube. I think it should be. No. I think it should be in mine too, for a lot of reasons, because I got looking at our horrors and how we just took a wolf and we mangled it and twisted it and turned it in circles and gave it double strike and delirium. Or we took a vampire and we took its fangs and kind of melded them out a little bit and making its bat wings all weird. But when you look at Woe Strider, this is a horror. Like, this card, the proportions of this art strange. Woe Strider, for 2 colorless and 1 black, you get a creature horror. It's not vampire horror. It's not monkey horror. It's not human horror. It's not cat horror. It's horror. It's like almost its own thing. It's so disturbing in the images that they provide you that this is such a, to quote our good friends from LPR, the idea of like a seed crystal or a catalyst for building a cube, or I want it to design off this point. 3/2, when Woe Strider enters the battlefield, create a 0/1 white goat creature token. Not a possessed goat, although it could be.
They really missed the mark on that.
They really did.
They really missed the
mark. Could
have
done better. Do better.
Possessed goat really should be. The card obviously exists, but possessed goat as a token should be evergreen. You heard it here first.
Sacrifice another creature, scry 1, escape. Pay 3 colorless and black, exile 4 other cards from your graveyard. Woe Strider escapes with 2 1/1 counters on it. By the great John Thacker. I mean, this art is, for me, as I kind of pulled down all of our horror theme, and I want to look at all of our cards, and there's some more we can talk about. This one really kind of took it brought everything together that we were talking about with these horror films and about Commander players, but it's kind of pulling it all together, right? Like it's fantastic. Please appreciate this art. Check it out. It's scary. What do you feel about this card and adding it? I'm going to add it in my cube. I feel like it should be in there.
I think the only reason I have not added it, and this is very mechanical, was I don't think my black decks want to exile their graveyard for the escape cost. But it's a minor nitpick. I mean, it would fit in perfectly. Like, the art-wise, it's great. Like, you can tell they started with the idea of a human and then just kept going.
Yes.
The face. Like, I've never really seen the cards art blown up like this. Like, when you can see the face, I think that's where, like, it really kind of all comes together for me.
It's mangled, it's twisted, it's
purple.
Disheartening.
Almost not there.
Yeah.
Like, it looked hollow.
Yes.
It's uncomfortable. And the more I looked at this card, and I got all yours pulled up, and I pulled mine up, I was thinking, man, we are missing the mark on a card that really kind of gives you shivers if you take a second and stare at this thing. Because I want in my horror cube, I know nobody does this, but let's pretend they do. It's Halloween, which we haven't done in a while. We used to play at my good buddy Nathan's Uber Bear's horror cube, which sounds scary when you say Uber Bear in front of it. I get that. But the vibe I wanted to go is let's play a little bit of Marilyn Manson. Let's play a little bit of Silent Hill soundtrack. Let's kind of creep it down. Let's bring in some typo negative, right? Let's slow it down. Let's make this room a little darker than we should. Let's make that lighting not perfect. I don't want to give anybody like cataracts.
Unscrew the light bulbs.
Yeah. I'm trying not to make it flicker too much.
Some candles on.
Let's get some moths. But
cups of blood.
The usual stuff, right? But I kind of wanted the vibe, the tone to be set, and when I want you to kind of be, I guess, transported into this world that's unsettling, right? And your cube does this. And Woe Strider is a great little portal card in my mind if you're doing a thematic design that can kind of encapsulate, for those that have seen these movies, we talked about Event Horizon, In the Mouth of Madness, or Glorious, a little less so, but it takes kind of embodies, Glorious definitely. So I didn't really think about that when I said it, but you're right. Maybe that is
from
scary.
what I know about that movie.
It's scary. But you see where I'm going with this. On the track of a thematic design build, the incorporation of these type cards can kind of give you an edge. I don't care if this is goblins or spirits or merfolk. When you're designing, looking for that art piece, that treatment that kind of invokes what you're trying to say, it goes miles in the design. I guess what you're trying to accomplish, that reader-writer relationship that I've talked about ad nauseum at this point. But for those that understand it, Cavs opening up the book, looking at my horror cube, he needs to feel a certain way while playing it, not just mechanically driven. I can turn this 2/1 vampire sideways, gets +1/+1 counters, can't be blocked by humans. I want more than that out of these Magic cards. Is that reasonable, Angelo?
Yeah, and that's something that I've always had front of mind with my cube. So it's a little bit of a tangent, but something I've been trying to do with mine, especially now with Innistrad Remastered, is I'm trying to go in like as much of my cube that can be old border. I want it to be that way.
Absolutely.
I find something about the old frame just kind of gives it that kind of like old, antiquated creepiness that I don't think is there with the modern frame.
We just got back from CubeCon. We're fresh off the trail, and I had my horror cube in, and I had my artifact cube in, and we were talking about this kind of pre-gaming. The artifact cube is like almost entirely foiled out. I mean, it is, and the horror cube is approximately, I'd say, 90-ish. It's foiled out well too. But the compliment came through. It was brought to my attention by multiple people at CubeCon that the horror cube is one of the most beautiful cubes they've ever seen. And I don't mean that as like I'm not patting myself on the back. It was brought to my attention. They thought it was pretty, and I wanted to know what invoked that response. What made that happen? Like, what was the reason for that? And the more I thought about it, and this is me kind of internalizing, trying to understand my two different thematic designs side by side. The metallic sheen on the artifact cube is intentionally there. And yes, it is foily and all that. But a lot of those cards are kind of monotone in their hue. Their colors aren't vibrant, right? They're brown, and they're brown with brown on brown, and the brown sparkles, right? That's what I'm trying to say. Whereas in the horror cube, the vampire's blood that's foiled out glistens in such a way that invokes a whole different type of artistic, I guess, response, a feeling. And the colors, they're more color vibrant, and then they push forward more. That they help pull you into that world a little bit further through the art driven exercise. Does that make sense to you, Angelo?
Absolutely. Like, this is something I've thought about with like horror movies and books. You know, to get the reader or the viewer in that mindset where they're able to suspend their disbelief and kind of let, difficult kind of emotions and feelings that don't come up often when you're sitting in like the safety of your bedroom or on your couch, like come into an experience. Like, you have to get pulled in by like a very good artist, like if you look at some of the best directors of all time, Stanley Kubrick, they've like all done a horror movie. If you think about some of the like kind of most remembered pieces of literature, a lot of them are like classic horror. I don't know how many people are like running out and regularly reading 1800s literature, but like Dracula and like Frankenstein.
Bram Stoker. Oh my God, it's so good. That film actually with Keanu Reeves actually did an okay job with trying to encapsulate that book. When you're reading the diaries, it makes sense. Again, it's Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves is kind of like Sam Neill. They're never going to change they're never going to change a great deal, but you can incorporate that into your cube design of your thematics. Agreed?
And that movie is a great example. Bram Stoker's Dracula, that was Francis Ford Coppola. That was the same person who made The Godfather. If you watch that movie, like, the visuals and the colors are super vivid. There's a lot of really bright reds. It pulls you in, and it kind of makes you feel otherworldly. And that's how it's able to be effective.
I think I really like the approach of sort of this, the way that the abstract art as well can invoke such a different emotional response, because I feel like maybe there's a bit of and we've talked about this on previous episodes, sort of the desensitization of things like vampires and things like werewolves, right? It's like, okay, cool, it's a vampire, it's a werewolf, right? I'm a lot more used to that. But when you look at something, you mentioned Woe Strider, it's the first card, and you can look at the other cards that you've got that fit into that horror, especially the ones that don't have a secondary creature type. I was going to point out, and Anthony already looked at it, you look at the art for Silent Hall Creeper. This is 1 and a blue enchantment creature horror for a 1/1. Can't be blocked when it deals combat damage to a player. Choose one that hasn't been chosen. Put a +1/+1 counter on Silent Hall Creeper. Draw a card, or it becomes a copy of another target creature you control, right? So now you look at that and think, man, that is unlike anything that I've seen.
Again,
I don't have a reference point, right?
It's got that along. What's unsettling about this art, and this will be in the show notes with all the other horrors, because again, we've got others that we're going to talk about. You got a zombie, and you picture your Walking Dead zombie. They're gross. We don't deal with that, right? Or possessed goat, we don't deal with it. And for those that saw Alien Earth, there's a certain creature on there that was pretty benign, and then a thing happened to it and made it. I don't want to spoil this either. Alien Earth was fantastic, but something happened to this thing, and it made it ethereal. It made it unworldly. It made it different. And it's unsettling when it's different. So going back to Silent Hall Creeper and Wolf Strider, the art, it doesn't make sense. As in, it's got a forearm that looks like it's 6 feet tall, and then it's got before the elbow, in the art, it's maybe a foot long, but then its torso is contorted, going down to its pelvis that's dropping, and its knees are folded in and make no sense. Because it's going through a hall that's very, like, this thing could bend itself to move through this cavern at rapid speeds and contort itself is a hell of a lot scarier than I want to suck your blood, Bram Stoker, right? We know that's horrible, and we don't know how to deal with that either, right? We got our crucifixes, we got our garlic, we got all our, pop cultural nonsense, so we know how to deal with that. I don't know how the hell to deal with Silent Hall Creeper. It's going to move fast. I'm a little overweight. I'm going to get stuck, and Stu's not going to come back to get me.
I'm not. I've already shot you in the foot.
Yeah, you shot me in the foot.
I'm running away as fast as I can. But like, you look at something like Cleaver Scarp, right? So that's a zombie horror. So it's still got that horror, but it's now the zombie. And I look at the art, and it's got the two heads and like a club sword kind of looking thing. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm still sprinting away from that if it's, if I encounter it in a cave or a wood or something. But I don't have a strong emotional response to something like that. Maybe again, it's that desensitization that I do to something like Woe Strider. And Woe Strider's got more of the kind of humanoid element to it, right? Like Angelo, I think you put it perfectly. Someone probably started with the model of a human or some kind of humanoid-ish kind of template and then created that from it. You could also make like kind of a semi-argument for Silent Hall Creeper. It still has arms and legs and a torso and a head, right? So you could see that that's kind of pushing it, but it's still frightening.
Well, back to these cards that you have in your cube. I got a question for you, Angelo. If I put a prefix of angel in front of it and then horror, does it invoke that dread when you're designing your cubes? Or if I just say horror, period, right? Like when I put a avatar horror, zombie horror, insect horror, I'm giving you a point of reference of what this thing's supposed to look like visually, and now I'm going to mangle it and make it different, or I'm not going to define this for you at all. I'm just going to do horror, period. You see where I'm going with this question?
Let me throw some context on this real quick, right? Because we've got another card again in the show notes. So we got Angel Horror, as you mentioned, Gisela, the Broken Blade, 2 colorless, 2 white, legendary creature, Angel Horror 4/3, flying first strike lifelink at the beginning of your end step. If you both own and control Gisela the Broken Blade and a creature named Bruno the Fading Light, exile them, then meld them into Brazella, Voice of Nightmares. First of all, the art on Gisela, and this is really all I need to say, those little pink kind of veiny looking things through those wings, you ain't fooling anybody. You still look fabulous.
That's what I mean. Emericalized, but it's still beautiful.
Yeah, you're still like, if I wander into you in the cave or the wood, I'm like, all right, I got a nice restaurant just a few minutes away.
Yeah, you want to get a pint?
You want to go get a cocktail? Like, let's go.
But that's how they get you,
That's how they get you.
If that's how it ends for me, that's how it ends. I ain't mad about it.
Like, with that one, I like it because the type line Angel Horror is like 2 complete polar opposites. Like, what is that? You have one that is kind of, the personification of like good and light and like religious overtones, and then you have horror. So it's like, when you mash those 2 things together, what does it look like?
A possessed goat.
And like, yeah. But like the front face of that card, pretty unassuming. Like you said, you'd still go into that bar and get a drink.
Absolutely.
You've seen the flip side, right? Like the meld.
Yeah,
it's not good. It's not good.
I'm not thinking about that.
You're not going to run because it flies.
Right. To throw another movie in, that's like Large Marge like dropping her face and like the creepy claymation coming out at Pee-wee.
Thank you for bringing that up again. I'm gonna have nightmares again. I was not ready for that. Like a toilet seat talking was enough, but now we're just gonna throw in Large Marge and make it weird.
I like that
boomer
because of
magic
like, the unassumingness.
So,
and then just how weird the back half of that card is.
So I want to talk about, let's go back to the cube design aspects. Now we've talked about the feelings of dread, and we've talked about movies, and we talked about Commander, and everybody's like, what in the hell are we talking about? to kind of tie this off, I have a few like outlier questions for you as a designer, and are they intentional? So the Overlord cycle, which is kind of the Avatar horrors, and there's the Overlord of the Boiler Bilges, and there's the Overlord of
Overlord of the Mistmoors.
There's a whole bunch of them.
Hauntwoods,
yeah. In this
Ailmerk,
in your kind of environment that is 540, correct? Where you've kind of got this, they're power spikes. How do you deal with that from a mechanical aspect? I mean, do you find that, have you had enough since you've been playing a lot of Commander to know if these cards are too much, too little? Are they pressing the peaks of power in your environment? Because if I'm going to put them side by side, and this is a challenge, and say Scourge Wolf, which is a wolf horror. First strike, Delirium, got to do all these. It might get double strike, might not. It's a 2/2 for 2.
Cat just knocked my camera out. Sorry.
Oh, we'll wait. we're gonna leave that in. Cat horror.
Are there any cat horrors in Magic?
Yes, there are.
There are.
I'm sure there are.
I'm
saying that with confidence without confirming it.
I'm seeing them. I'm not seeing any in this cube.
Well, there's definitely a wolf horror, so I have to assume.
Cat. All right. I don't mean to sort of rain on your parade here, Anthony, but cats and wolves are not the same.
So we did the thematic, right? But what I'm asking, as we kind of wrap up here, how do you manage like power spikes? I mean, we've got Hole Breacher horror. We know this is a bad card, and then you've got stuff like Overlord of the Boiler Bilges, and we've got all these Overlords that showed up in the Domain decks. We know they rock, and you've been playing Commander, and this is a good little tie off. Have you had a chance to test these, pilot these? Are you still working on getting that group together, the band back, to try these things out?
So one thing I have done is, even though I haven't been playing Cube in person much, I've been doing rotisserie drafts with some other Cube curator friends from across the internet over Discord and Cockatrice. And we have done a rotisserie of my Cube once Duskmourn was in there, so all of the Overlords got played. I have always had power outliers in my Cube, just by virtue of the card pool that I have being limited. Unlike a lot of other cubes, there are going to be cards that stand out. What I try to make sure is that they all have some way where they can be answered. So I have always tried to make sure that, because I have those power spikes, that every color has a sufficient number of or amount of interaction to where, as long as a drafter is kind of drafting responsibly and catching those signs that there are power outliers and there's a lot of interaction available, they should have an answer for it. So an example of something I've taken out because of that would be like the God Eternal cycle from War of the Spark. Like, those were incredibly difficult to answer because they got tucked back in. I think it was like third from the top.
Yeah.
And they would just come back again and again and again and again. And there was just no efficient way to answer them. So I look at the power spike as long as it is answerable.
So I want to do a comparison. I want to draw a comparison that's happening actually in my curation world right now, where I've got a 540 powered vintage cube. And I'm going to draw a conclusion here, or an idea. And then our good friend Sandwich has a 360 powered vintage cube. And if you put them side by side, one list is tighter than the other, more constructed for optimization. Mine's looser. Now, using that as a gauge, as a metric, I'm going to put mine next to yours in the horror genre. I'm at 360, you're at 540. So some of the cards that you're running, I don't run because, not that I'm optimizing, that my list has to be tighter, more granular, right? I have to pull it in a little. Do you find that in that bandwidth of power at 540 that kind of the rubber band stretches is what I'm saying, right? You've got these peaks of power, these orbits that go way out, like Hole Breacher Horror that does nonsense.
Hole Breaker Horror,
I still run it in my power cube, and though it's questionable, it's still, the card is sick once it starts happening.
It's a really good card.
It's broken.
It's a really good card.
Or Overlord of the Baelmuk, right? These are your outer bands. These are your Jupiters, right? We're going way out. And then you pull it in closer to the sun, or excuse me, closer to the earth, we start getting a little bit more or less bandwidth. Am I right in that statement? Or less powerful?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, totally. Like you said, like Scourge Wolf. Like, that belongs in one deck. And it's not a particularly great card in that deck. But I have found generally there are enough of these cards where everyone at the table is going to have one or two. And I know this was controversial last time when I said it, but I'll say it again. Like, this is another reason why I try to make sure that good stuff decks are harder to build. Just because if they weren't, I don't want someone to be able to kind of like cut the top of that power distribution off, build a good 3 or 4 color mana base, and be able to cast all of that.
No, I
and
don't
have
disagree.
a deck that's nothing but bombs.
As we've kind of went from last year to this year, I agree with you more.
Yeah.
Your power resonance kind of gets, I guess it gets distilled down too much, right? It starts getting murky on what people are trying to do. You're trying to project a theme. Back to our horror movies, right? You want people to feel the feels of this environment. But if these cards get washed out and I just glance over this and don't realize this is a Kraken horror, this is a bird horror, this is a zombie horror, and it means nothing to me. I'm not getting your vibes anymore. It just becomes generic magic cards on a battlefield. You've kind of, unintentionally missed the mark, right? From your curation design standpoint. Do you agree with that? But that's not the case. I'm not saying that's happening.
Yeah.
I'm saying that could happen if the 5-color good stuff unfortunately happen. It could wash over what you're trying to project here to your audience. Being someone like me, collecting your cube.
And that's kind of the other thing. Like, while I say I build my cube flavor first, like, I also want it to be an environment where one of my favorite formats in Magic, I know this is a little side tangent, but I'll get back to it, is Pauper. Like, I love Pauper because it's a very interactive format. You are having to play against the other opponents or your opponent's threats. You can have some crazy stack interactions if you get into like a counterspell battle with someone. I've seen some wild stacks. And there are just some like power outlier cards in that format. They're common, so they don't read like it, but they are. And that's kind of the gameplay that I have in my mind when I've built this cube. Like, I want synergistic decks to win over piles of good cards. I want bombs to be answerable, and I want like a responsible drafter who's, eating their vegetables to be able to answer everything. Like, to the point where if you've looked at my list and you've wondered why Invasion of Innistrad is in there, it's because that is the only card I can find that can actually answer Emrakul when it comes down. It has flash, so it gets around the protection from instants. It gives -13, so it gets around the indestructible. Like, every bomb in the cube has an answer.
Toxic Deluge for 13? Question mark.
What was that?
Toxic Deluge for 13 life? Question mark.
I mean, you could do that too.
Now you're talking.
Yeah, there we go. Wrath of God, damnation. I don't know.
But it answers Emrakul to turn its cast, importantly. Like, that's the only instant speed way to deal with that card before your opponent gets
Venser.
to take it. Yeah, but Venser's not
Counter spell. It can't be countered, right?
Can't be countered.
I'm running out of things. Definitely Venser, then. We're going to go with that.
I was going to say Venser is perfect. Venser luck by itself belongs in any kind of horror environment. So I'll go with Venser.
So I would encourage the listeners to kind of look at this art, I guess this fixture that I've made in the show notes here, where I went through and clipped out all of your horror actual creature type, I guess we'll call it that, subtype, I'm not sure. And then I also have that for mine too, and you definitely outweigh mine. I'm not bold enough to do the overlords because I feel like in my tight list they would break my vampires in half, but I can see where you're doing the power outliers. It's all
that's the
yeah.
That's another thing that comes up. Like,
at 360,
you're not
going to
see all 5.
Yeah. You get 5-color domain deck in mine. It'd be I'm not even playing Magic anymore, but I can see the argument here, but I can see to kind of bring it all back when we're talking about this, as you're designing these cubes, getting that look, getting that vibe, that horror tension. I would recommend the films we kind of talked about, and there's other films out there, right? But something about when you're curating and you're trying to think of how do I build my first new thematically based cube like Angelo took on here, right? How do I get this vibe of this H.P. Lovecraftian? Again, he's a jerk, but we know this, but how do you capture those stories into the idea of a cube? There's not too many people, in my opinion, that do this better. That's why I want you to be our forever recurring October guest here. I don't know if you know this.
I will be here.
I'll come up with new movies. We'll talk about new things. You just got to keep updating it with weird cards I can talk about. But this has been fun. I've enjoyed this. I enjoyed having you on the show every time we do this. It's always a pleasure.
Horror's such a fun...
Thanks for having me back.
Horror's such a fun, cube vibe, isn't it?
It is.
There's so much.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of creativity.
There's a lot of fidelity you can do with this, right?
But there isn't a density, in my opinion. And I can say this because of either working on commander decks, right? We'll talk about EDH, but even working on my cubes.
That's scary.
It is. But there isn't maybe the density of cards like you might expect for a game like Magic, right? The cubes, even for horror, they don't build themselves like I think they might be able to do for other kinds of themes.
I wanted to talk about these because they go unnoticed, kind of like the homunculi, right? Nobody talks about these things. They need a representative, and I think the horror has a home here. Like, there's enough of this type that it could become a cube outside of the traditional vampire, werewolf, zombie.
Yeah.
You could concentrate this more. I believe this could be done. I might be wrong here, but I haven't searched. Probably should have done my research, but there's enough to at least make a bar cube. Let's just go with that.
Well, and that's something I really like about like horror as like a theme in cube is like, when I first put this cube together, Cube Cobra didn't exist. It was still Cube Tutor. But it was Shadows over Innistrad and Eldritch Moon. Since then we've had another trip to Innistrad. There's a whole second horror plane that popped up. And like if you go to Cube Cobra and you look up the horror map, the cube map, there used to be like one spooky island where it was a bunch of Innistrad cubes. But now you see like hardcore just cards from Innistrad. You see horror cubes like mine that kind of take things from everywhere.
You also see the Professor Gilligan, the skipper.
That's a horror show by itself.
Here on Horror's Isle.
But you see all these other different takes on it, which is cool. It's like there's now enough cards there could be choice, and you can build it different ways.
Correct. So, any final notes you want to provide to the listeners on, one, you want to build a cube group. We can work on that.
Yes.
Join the Ubercube Discord.
Northeast Ohio, baby.
Yep, somewhere in the great state of Ohio, which we drove through recently.
Part of it all.
So much corn. And I can see the problem. With building a cube group. There's a lot of corn.
So
like a lot.
The problem is if you're driving through Ohio, all you're going to see is corn. You got to go to Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati. That's
corn,
maybe Toledo and Akron. We'll
flat,
some representation there.
Very flat and very long and very straight roads. I have done that drive on many an occasion.
We just did it this week.
Yeah, I've done it. I mean, my parents live in Canada. I live in North Carolina, so I'm very familiar with driving that route. And even my wife, who was like, "Man, I've never been to Ohio. I can't, comment on it as far as the state is concerned, but driving through it is the worst."
I can tell when I get out of West Virginia, Kentucky, and then I go to Ohio, and I'm like, oh, great. But I do want to go to the Mothman Museum when I cross that line. I have not been there yet. I want to go.
I've always wanted to go
so bad. I have begged them 4 times now, and I think we're never driving to CubeCon again. We're going to fly now.
My coworker.
I want to go to the Mothman Museum.
Yeah, my coworker just came back from a Mothman festival.
They have one. I want to go. I want to go.
She's there in West. I think she's in West Virginia or Virginia. But
okay. Cavs. Before we close off,
yes,
can we have a Mothman Festival Cube Day? That would be fantastic. It's in Ohio. It's at the line. This could be done. I feel like you could do this. You could set up your own, we'll call it Cthulhu-thon right there on Mothman Day. That'd be fantastic. Near the bridge. For the people that aren't familiar with the Mothman legend, look it up. It's good stuff. But now I've got
trying to think if I have
Angelo. I got Angelo leaning in now. Like, can this be done?
Do I have a moth in the cube? Is the question.
Question. Well, you do actually. You have the Overlord of whatever that makes the weird.
You're right. It makes moth tokens.
Moth tokens. You got that covered.
Right.
Mothman covered. Mothman's done. There you go. We'll work on that. Side note, I'll talk about how to build your own cube event. I would 100% drive to the great cornfields of Ohio again. But anyways, we're going to kind of wrap up here. So how can the listeners reach you? What are the ways they talk about? Well, they want to know about your commander decks. They want to know about this cube more, your design philosophies. How do they get a hold of you besides the Ubercube Discord, which I don't know if you get mind getting pinged in there, but theoretically they could.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. No, I don't mind at all.
CavsFangelo?
Yes. So I'm in there. You can find my cube on Cube Cobra. The vanity tag is Cthulhu, Cthulhu.
Yeah, I misspelled that a lot too. It's okay.
Yeah, I did not have SEO in mind when I thought of that. I think you can find my EDH decks.
Oh, there we go.
Oh.
Let's do it. Let's do it
Architect.
for those that are listening.
Architect. I'm also CavsFangelo. I also have like a running list of like different cube decks from friends' cubes that I've like done rotisserie drafts of. So there's some interesting stuff in there. You know, I wouldn't say
send me
that's,
all
like,
of your
prime
send me
place to
all
find
of your
me.
links, including that
Yep.
scary commander nonsense, and
Yeah.
I'll be glad to link it. Somebody
It
out
is
there is
Halloween.
like, I can't wait. This is Halloween.
it
It's
is Halloween.
the horror of commander.
I'm going to sell you one day.
Oh, we play Commander. I just
My
don't
new
talk
goal.
about it. Like, you know, our listeners are like, gross. It's a horror episode. We can do it once a
Anthony
year.
plays Commander
Yes.
when someone's got a gun to his head.
I don't
That's about it.
I don't play very nice either. I just want those games to end, man. I just bust it out and like, give me back my mana crypt again.
I'm selling everything and just playing
I need
Sultai combo for the rest of my life.
be done. Make those games last 15
I'm going
minutes.
for Thassa's Oracle and turn 2 every game.
All right.
Forget
Other than
about it.
that, that's horrible.
All
Take
right,
it to the socials.
Let's go. All right. So, as always, to all of our Patreons, to Patrick, to Jeff Stumpo, to Nick LaPointe, Chris Fitzgerald, Timber Dragon, Brian Christensen, Keaton Schultz, Lord Justice, and Preston, and not to mention our good friend Sam McKenna.
I
Big
stole
thank
all
you
of
to
your
you.
glasses. I have them from CubeCon. I have like 3 of them, Sam. I'm just going to tell you now. I'm keeping them forever.
I'm stealing one next time I go to Anthony's house. For the conversation on Facebook.com/groups/MTGCube. What are you at now? 1,500?
It's a lot. It's more than
Lot
I
of
can.
members.
It's a lot of humans.
more than our group is.
It's big. Yeah.
All right. Well, you know what? Make a post in there as an admin and look for players in northeastern Ohio. Let's get some groups
I
going.
could actually do that. That's
You
a
should
good point.
do that.
Yeah.
You
I
should
could
do that.
I could be like, shout out.
Yeah.
Yeah. As always, if you want to support the show, you can use our inkedgaming.com/UberCube affiliate link. All kinds of cool custom and large volume products available for your Magic experience.
Do they meet you in a cornfield, like to play Commander, like a ring or something?
No, they play on. They're going to sit. They're going to glue a table to a windmill and play on one of those.
Okay. Carry on.
That's the way it happens up there. You can reach us on the socials. Look for us at Twitter at UberCubeMTGPod. You can also see us on Bluesky, UberCubeMTGPodcast.bsky.social. You can find us at UberCubeMTGPodcast@gmail.com if you want to shoot us an email about this episode or a previous episode or the podcast in general. As always, come hang out with us on our Discord. And I don't really mention the YouTube very much, right? Ubercube MTG Podcast.
We got
747.
Vintage coming to
However,
Arena.
We do have Vintage coming
And
to
I have
Arena.
OBS.
I've kept talking about these online drafts that we've been doing a little bit more recently that aren't as popular as I thought they might be.
But you haven't posted one. That's
I need
why.
to start. I know. I need. Well,
It does help if you post them.
Don't
Just
say that.
Don't put
say
it out
that.
to the cornfields.
I know.
Yeah.
We're not cornfield drafting. Not this week. And again, last but not least, again, thank you a huge.
Hang on. Cavs has something to say. Go ahead, Cavs. You're holding back.
Just for the record, I would like to say that there is not a cornfield within an hour of me. Thank you.
Hang on. Are you talking about an hour on a skateboard or an hour driving a vehicle?
What do you call it whenever? What's the thing called? They do it in Nebraska. Whenever it's like the husking, they have these.
Shucking.
Well, they have a name for it. They detasseling of the corn. You guys don't do that.
I am
in
so
Ohio?
unfamiliar with corn and cornfields. I do not know what you're talking about.
All right, welcome to the grain belt, the bread belt.
I live
All
in
right.
a modern metropolis.
And then other than that, we're gonna say the thing that we always say here at UberCube is happy.